Harrison Price for Thursday, April 24th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. And as always, this show, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Harrison alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. We have a big program planned for you today with plenty of exciting sporting happenings here in the city of Vancouver. Just not with the Vancouver Canucks. They had their excitement earlier in the week.
The drama,
when Jim
anyway.
Rutherford took to the podium. So it's the other teams that are having excitement here this week, including one team that is in the playoffs. More on them in a moment. But we start with the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Is bringing back Elias Pettersson and Thatcher Demko a better idea than trading both? You can vote yes or no. Do so at the Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. Blake Price, what says you?
Hockey's a funny sport, so full of turns of phrase, wisdoms, proverbs. Lawrence Gilman is an encyclopedia of these things. And Matt, there might be an equal number that warn against falling in love with your player and never getting rid of them as there are to move on problems early rather than late. So what the hell is this poll question? Where does it land? Are you being preemptive? Are you getting out before it hurts you even more? Or are you ignoring the evidence that both players are elite and that you should just stand pat? Right now, in the medium term, and I think this management group is not thinking long term because management groups rarely do. They go medium at least.
Well, some do actually, but it's just the marching orders of this franchise is it's a year-to-year proposition.
So with that in mind, and improvement needs to be a little bit more swift than pragmatic, I think your quickest avenue to that is to roll the dice and hope for a bounce back. That provides you the quickest turnaround. If Thatcher Demko and Elias Pettersson are their normal selves next year, you are in far better shape than hoping on the guys that you're acquiring with them.
Yeah, that's the glass half full view. I also voted yes because this is a 2-for-1. And I really like the idea of a goaltending tandem next year of Thatcher Demko and Kevin Lankinen.
Yeah.
Said on the show yesterday, I do think you're going to have to win mostly with a defensive mindset next year. I have trouble seeing tons more goals next year. I mean, it's conceivable, but that's a heavier lift, if you ask me. The better route to success, game in, game out, I think will be terrific team defense, which we have seen for the most part in the Tocchet era, and outstanding goaltending. And I think with Demko and Lankinen, you're going to have a tandem that is the envy of most of the National Hockey League. Now, if somebody so believes in Thatcher Demko that they're willing to take him as the centerpiece for a top two center, then for me, all bets are off. You've got to make that move. It is the bigger weakness, and you're going to have to find a partner for Kevin Lankinen to make that work, whether that's in-house in Artur Shilovs or Nikita Tolopilo, or whether that's going out on the trade or free agent market.
I highly doubt that's happening. Not because Demko's not great. I just think people are so scared about his
scared of the injury. 1 year left at $5 million, so it's not a long-term solution for you in goal, or at least it's a more expensive solution for you in goal if he pans. If he pans out, I agree with you there. Elias, and I have been saying this for about a month now. Well, I've been saying it since we found out his season was coming to a close, and that was that there would be no late flurry. Come back and flurry from Elias Pettersson. That leaves a better taste in your mouth going into the summer. And I've drawn the golf analogy a million times, right? Like you're facing a nearly impossible golf shot. you figure out what's the worst crime, and you avoid that one. If leaving it short is the worst crime, make sure you don't leave it short. If hitting it over the green into the water is the worst crime, then make sure you're not taking a mighty swing. For me, the worst crime with Elias Pettersson is that you have an $11.6 million anchor. And so while the market may not be the highest for Elias, understand it can crater from here. It can get worse from here. You may not love the idea of what you would get back in a trade package, but I still think you can make a good trade for Elias Pettersson. And so for me, the next 2 months are critical. If you're liking what you're seeing and hearing from Elias in terms of his offseason regiment, and we're going to play the clips from Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvine from earlier this week on Elias and what he needs to do. If he has satisfied you on all those fronts, then I'm with you in terms of bring him back. Your better chance here of running this channel is with Elias and with Demko. But I think if you have any doubts, Blake, between now and the draft, the time to move is this summer before the no move kicks in on July 1st.
Yeah, it's on the menu. It's on the menu. I just I don't know that they've got the, and not because they're not gutsy, they're not brave. I just don't think they've got the confidence to pull off a trade and feel like they are in a better place.
Yeah. They have made some plums on the table trades, though.
Well, I think the JT Miller trade was done.
I don't doubt their nerve.
No, as I said, it's not really about that. I think they made the JT Miller trade and were brave enough to make that trade because they were hoping that would unlock Elias Pettersson.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work now, at least.
Saw some mild progress, but not enough to be convincing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Daily poll question brought to you by Surrey Mitsubishi, where you get $500 off a new or pre-owned vehicle by mentioning Sekeres Price. And if you're out there shopping for vehicles, bring them any offer. Surrey Mitsubishi will beat it. Score more, save more, more value, more savings. Visit 13820 104th Avenue. Top story by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Winery. I'm having a little bit of a draft party tonight at my house. There will be some Yellow Dogs in the fridge.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. The Abbotsford Canucks with a thrilling victory in Game 1 of their Calder Cup playoff drive. Only not many are there to witness it. Artur Shilovs.
Scrapping to the end. Trying to be cagey late in the game.
He's a high-event goalie now, isn't he?
He created an event.
Yeah, he sure did. Not many times in my life watching hockey where a goaltender knocks the net off its moorings in the final minute when protecting a one-goal lead and actually gets called for the penalty shot against. That was the case last night. Tucson with a penalty shot to tie the game at 4 with 35 seconds left, trailing 4-3. And Artie makes the save.
And did you see the save? Like it was
a good save.
Like he got faked out. He lunged to his left, realized the error, quickly corrected lunge to his right, and made the stop. It was a great save.
Mm-hmm. Artie reminds me of that race car driver who's all over the track, right? Like he's over curbs, but somehow, some way, he's fast.
That's what it felt like.
A 4-1 lead wasn't safe. Abby jumped all out in front in this game. But the Roadrunners came screaming back, including a shorty. And then we mentioned this earlier in the week. Abbotsford set an AHL record this year. The only team to not give up a shorthanded goal all season. They give one up in their first postseason.
Tremendous.
Game. Let's hear from head coach Manny Malhotra, who was very happy to win, but didn't necessarily love the process.
Well, most importantly for us is we got the win. Not in ideal fashion. When you have a game at 4-1, we'd expect to have more control of the game and be able to settle things down a little bit more. Give credit to them. They're the type of team that will not go away, and we understand that. And right down to the wire, they were in the game. So we're happy that we got the win ultimately, but there's definitely a lot of things to clean up.
Yeah, one would think so, Coach.
Score effects have been a thing, though, in the NHL playoffs, too. So I think making it competitive when you're down 3, see a lot of it. You don't necessarily consummate the comeback every single time, but you are going to be put through it. You're up 4-1. Like, you're probably not coasting.
Sammy Blais, the veteran winger, acknowledged they changed the way they played up 4-1.
Yeah.
And they nearly got bit. Blais had 2 goals. Archie Baines with a pair of helpers. They paced the baby Canucks in scoring. Tristan Nielsen and Linus Karlsson also score goals for Abbotsford. Jet Wu, Atu Ratu, Guillaume Brisebois, Kirill Kudryavtsev, Max Sassons. All the prospects are in on the scoring. More fantastic stuff.
Wu was pretty good last night, too. Wu was pretty physical, and he's interesting.
And you know, we wondered about lineups. It was She Loves instead of Tolopilo. Now they're right back at it tonight, so maybe it's a do-si-do with the goaltending. But you look up and down the lineup, Blake, it was, and we know there's a veteran limit. They're only allowed to dress 5 guys with 260-plus professional games. But you look up and down the lineup, and all of the prospects are there. And the prospects continue to fuel this season in Abbotsford, which is the most exciting part, right? Like, they're not leaning on 32-year-old grizzled AHL veterans. They're leaning on young players who are making improvements.
Except for maybe the biggest one. Lekkerimäki. 4 games without a point.
Yeah.
He's a -4 in those games, and I think he's only got 7 shots or something like that.
Yeah, it was 2 shots last night for Lekkerimäki.
Yeah. Love to see him.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
stat sheet a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Mueller didn't get a point last night. Near Klimovich didn't either, but hey, many of them did. Here's the issue, though, and we mentioned this yesterday. Ben Lipka out at Abbotsford, who does a great job covering this team, posted a screen grab of how many tickets were available for this game. The attendance was 3,760. The rink holds 7,000, can expand to 8,500. Like, that's 50%.
Yeah.
Attendance was an issue this year for the Abbotsford Canucks. And we always sat there and thought, boy, a Canucks farm team in British Columbia, and look, Fraser Valley is close, it's populated, that has actual prospects, like guys who are going to be future Vancouver Canucks, that should be a decent draw.
Yeah.
Abbotsford is without a marketing director. Apparently hasn't had one for some time. They, like their parent club, have had trouble retaining staff. And the tickets are priced at a point where a lot of people are voting with their wallets.
Yeah. And it's too
bad.
The
tickets are priced between $32 and $93. You want to sit down low in one of the best seats at center ice, it's up to $93. The club's attendance was down this year. Now, it should be better tonight on a Thursday. We will give them that. The midweek game is a little harder to sell in minor pro hockey.
But, Matt...
And, of course, if it is a deciding Game 3 on Saturday, you would hope that that building is nearly full.
A family of 4 going to minor league game is still spending $400 on great tickets? Like...
Yeah, I mean, you can do it on the cheap side, Blake. Let's say you buy the 4 at 32, so you're into 120. So you're, with some popcorn drinks, you're maybe out of there with $150, $175.
And that's the argument for an NHL game. No, you can get in a little bit cheaper and blah, 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 and you can make it work to watch the best players in the world.
Well,
this is the AHL.
So that's the issue is you do not have the draw of the best defenseman in the world, which you have at Rogers Arena, plus, of course, luminaries on the opponent.
Yes.
Pittsburgh, Washington come to town. Like, those are guys who are worth the price of admission.
And it's too bad. It's a great building. It's a wagon of a team. Like, it's really one thing. Is. They're not squeaking in as the 7th seed.
They had an awesome second half. They had a 13-game winning streak.
And
they damn near took down the division. I mean, it was a remarkable and a commendable performance from Manny Malhotra's team.
And given that people now know the names Ratu and Carlson and Sasson a lot more.
And Lekkerimäki.
Because they played so much this season. Like, it really has lined up pretty well for them to sell tickets.
Yeah. I mean, you should have players there who are better draws than most NHL players. Anyways.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes tonight. And, of course, Abbotsford can, I almost said Vancouver, Abbotsford can advance to the next round in the Pacific Division playoffs there in the AHL with a victory. This is a best-of-3 series.
Got to wrap it up. And you got to get your hands on some hazy pale ale from Yellow Dog. The High Five is on special for the month of April. You'll be disappointed if you don't get in on it. Go check it out at your favorite private and government liquor stores.
Blake loves those hazy IPAs.
On the summer, when the sun's out, it's very, very good.
J.P. Barry, the agent for Elias Pettersson, told Donnie and Dolly he's not really surprised that Alvin might trade him. You'll remember Alvin kept his options open. He did say Elias is planning a very big offseason, super determined to have a bounce-back season.
The one thing notable in what he did say,
agents are always going to shine up their players.
But I was actually taken by how real he was. Like, he acknowledged, no, things did not go well for him. You know, it was not a good performance, but he'll bounce back. Like, I was amazed that he even conceded that there was a need to bounce back, but at least he did that.
Yeah. Well, I think JP is wise enough to know that you can't tell a market like this that black is white.
Yes.
Let's go back to Monday. And let's hear, because we've talked about it a bit this week. We haven't actually played the clips. Patrick Alvin talking about Elias's practice habits and his options being open.
This is something that we have, since Rick Tocchet got in here, we talked about practice habits and taking every day as an opportunity to get better as an individuals. We're sitting here today, and I truly believe every single player wants to be better, and that starts in the off season, and it comes into in season when you're walking in here every day. You want to work on something. You always have something to work on. As we're also sitting here today, I will keep all my options open. I do believe that the last 3 years, Elias had one down year, which was this year. And as Jim alluded to before, it's not about individual points. It's about playing the right way in order to win. And I think that's where again, our team during the year, chemistry, consistency, movements in the season where we had chances to gain headweights in the standings. We didn't. Part of it is maturity. But go back to your questions. We still believe Elias is more than capable of coming back as he has shown in the past year in Vancouver. I think this is about to taking his game to the next level. And as Jim said, it's encouraging to see his determination, work ethic when he, again, I believe he was in here Saturday and in here today again, working hard.
So he takes the question and he links practice habits and preparation with keeping his options open. Was that a tell for you? Do you agree with me that the next couple months and what they see and hear out of Elias may very well determine whether they're shopping him at the draft or listening at the draft? I
just don't know how they're going to see. I mean,
he's there working.
He's there now. But
yeah.
They also concede, he's
Well, they'll have Michael Michael Samuelsson in Sweden, I suspect, checking in on him.
But you're not there every day. So what they're talking about is the little stuff that happens each and every day, and they're not going to be able to know. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of faith that's going to be put into this, and a lot of faith in the words even of Elias Pettersson. Is he saying the right things to them?
Well, that's it.
You know, they're not going to know what he's necessarily doing on the daily.
Mm-hmm.
But his commitments throughout,
Yeah. So you have the commitment side of things, and then you just simply have, is he tough enough? And that was something that Alvin also alluded to on Monday. Here's the Canucks GM.
Well, I think he expressed that last year, knee tendonitis after the season. What I will say is there is a lot of players in the National Hockey League that plays through different injuries, different part of the year. I think regarding his off season, that it played into it. Part of being a pro player is that you have resources to handle different things. As of now, Elias is healthy and is back. He was rehabbing his oblique. He also had he went into the boards at the Four Nations that caused some swelling in his knee, but that's not an issue as well. We believe that with his health and the resources we have here helping him during the summer, he's going to be healthy, hopefully coming into next season. And again, I give a lot of players credit through playing through some injuries during the year here. And I guess that's part of pro hockey, and it's part of us to have the right care for the players to help them succeed in the league and help the team be successful.
You may remember that after the year-end media sessions last season, the Canucks were reported to be just apoplectic, that Elias got up there and effectively blamed his poor second half and postseason on knee tendonitis. So I think you have the question of tough enough, but also I think what further frustrated them is that Elias goes away, trains with this Stockholm group that Cam Robinson was telling us about, different than whom he had been training with previously, and then comes into training camp, and the first thing he's asked about his summer, he goes, oh yeah, well, the knee prevented me from doing some exercises, but that's okay because we found other ways to compensate. And I think the Canucks were like, oh my God, like if that was going to be the case for your summer training, then why not take advantage of all the resources we have available to you, even if it's from afar, than going off and charting a regimen out of our view, out of our domain, without any of our people, and then coming into camp and saying, oh, I wasn't able to do. And sure enough, it becomes apparent in short order that he's not in the greatest of shape. So I think there was a compounding effect going back to last year's media availability and Elias being so quick to blame knee tendonitis for his struggles and then having to hear about it again in the fall at training camp.
I think people are really getting a little bit overwhelmed by the is he training in Vancouver thing. Like, these are multi-millionaires with every resource available to them if they want it. They can all pay for it. If he wants to pay the extra cost of doing it all privately back in Sweden, Elias Pettersson's A, allowed to do that, B, can afford the same level of treatment that he's getting here in Vancouver. All that is possible. Now, I think it necessitates communication with the Vancouver Canucks as to what is happening so that there's a faith in the player and all that sort of stuff.
And that's a bigger issue with it. You can't be a loner anymore, son. You've got to bring people into the process as well. Don't think you're the only guy who can fix your problems, because that has not been the case to date. You do require help.
I don't want people to think, well, if he's not training with the Canucks, under their watch flying, then he's not going to be ready for the season.
No, it's not that simple. But I think it's also the Canucks probably know better here than Elias on his own.
Well, no, then the player, yes, but not better than the guy that he can hire. Like, there's 90% of the superstars out there do not train under the watchful eye of their club during the summers. They do it on their own with private guys that they hire. And again, let's not act like Elias Pettersson wasn't a point-per-game player for 6 NHL seasons before this one. he was able to prepare for those seasons just fine. So there has been proof of concept before that Elias Pettersson can ably prepare himself for seasons. And we're not talking rookie and sophomore seasons where he may have taken the league by surprise. I've seen that from fans before. No, but they figured him out. His best seasons were his 5th and 6th seasons in the league. So if they were figuring him out, that wouldn't have been the case. He can prepare for a season. Something went awry last summer. Something happened, for sure. Mm-hmm. But let's not talk like this guy is arriving as a rookie with no freaking clue how to prepare for an NHL season. He does.
I want to play... I love your fire and passion. I want to play you this clip and hope it gets more passion out of you, because we didn't play this one earlier in the week either. But the story time with Jim Rutherford about when Scotty Bowman got to Detroit and had a conversation with Steve Yzerman, then Red Wings captain, about what was important for him in his career at that point, and basically buy into an overall team system. Here's Rutherford.
Has to buy into it, I mean, you can go through the league with different players, and lots of people around hockey know the story when Scotty Bowman went to Detroit and talked to Steve Yzerman about what was more important, his points or winning cups. And that's when Yzerman's game changed, and he bought into that. Sidney Crosby can play the game whatever way he wants. He's one of the greatest players of all time. But he did the same thing when Mike Sullivan came in as the coach. And then Pittsburgh won 2 Stanley Cups back to back. So there's examples out there, great examples out there for these young guys that say they want to win a cup, but do you want to put the work in? And just look at those 2 examples I give, and PD can do it. He's got the ability to do it. He's just got to buy into it and prepare properly in the off season.
Yeah, and let's make this clear, because I think some people got the wrong impression from Rutherford on Monday, because there was another answer where he talked about his points and stuff like that, and then drawing the Yzerman comparison. Like, I don't believe in Jim's world he thinks that Elias is a poor defensive player and that it's about spending more time, energy, attention on playing all 200 feet, both sides of the puck, both sides of the red line, and all of that. I think it's more about practice, preparation, commitment, leading by example, being that true championship centerpiece where you are an unquestioned leader in the room, where people want to follow your example and hold you up as an example of what it means to be a Vancouver Canuck, what it means to be a winner.
I never took it as that. What I took it as is...
Combined with the Rick Tocchet reprogramming comments from earlier in the season, like, do you feel like they're trying to get this guy to be something he's not, or something he already is to large measure in terms of being a two-way player?
What I took it from them there is, we're okay if he's only a 75-point player as long as he's doing the little things. And that's catastrophically wrong. That is not this player. That player can get 100 points and do the little things. We have seen it. If they're talking about, we need you to be pounding your chest and leading the guys into the fire, you've got the wrong guy. He's not going to be that guy. He will never, ever be that guy.
Crosby and Yzerman were not pound chest guys, though. But like, I don't think they're asking for outward emotion and raw out of them.
Well, they've got to be a little bit more clear then, if they want to communicate this, as to what they mean. Because are they saying that he just needs to, his mere presence at practice a half hour early, like Crosby, little things like that?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
yeah, that's what they're saying. Show us you give a shit.
I
practice better.
I think it's a little Neanderthal.
Don't be aloof.
I think it's a little Neanderthal.
Don't go through the motions at practice, because guess what? Other guys pick up on that. And they go, oh, This is an $11.6 million would-be number one centerman. I guess that's just the way they go about their business here in Vancouver.
Okay, but after the last two seasons, not this current one, but the last two, was anybody saying that Elias Pettersson doesn't show up for practice, doesn't practice enough? Besides Alvin.
Tocchet has said.
No, besides the same guys that have always said it. Like, have we heard it from, like, I don't think that.
I'm sorry, you need more evidence than the head coach and the GM.
I'm saying I think these guys walked into the room when they arrived here and said,
I think
don't like the cut of his jib.
No.
I'm not. I'm the one. You're the one attributing all these thoughts. I'm saying
no.
I don't think they have liked the cut of his jib from the start.
So you think the GM and the head coach are willing to go to the lengths of several public admonishments about the kids' practice habits, and you don't think there's any there?
I'm saying they are focused on the wrong thing. What they need to do
is get cup champions who saw it firsthand, but they're focused on the wrong thing. Okay, Blake.
Yeah, they're dumbing it down to a point where you don't dumb it down with these kinds of players. This is a Neanderthal approach to an elite player.
No, it's not. No. They're not asking him.
Matt, he's a 100-point player. Get the 100 points back.
He was a 100-point player. That could be the career year, Blake.
Okay, he's a 90-point player. He's done that twice. He's a point-per-game player. Let's get it to that at the very least.
Well, he's a point-per-game player twice in his career.
No. Over the course of his career, he's a point-per-game player, save for this season. He was on a point per game.
You're being generous with a few seasons there, but fine.
No, but I mean, over the totality, going into this season.
457 and 470.
But if you take away this season, he is a point-per-game player in his career. Get him back to that player, and then we can discuss... Not if he's showing up on time. Not if he's not sure. He is showing up on time. You want him to be there early. Like, are you kidding me? Get him back going offensively. Then we can talk about why he's not showing up to practice early enough for your taste. Like,
and I think their point is if he does show up early, he's more likely to be putting
and
up
I
categorically
disagree with that.
All right.
Like we have proof of concept. We have proof of concept. He's always been this guy, and he's done it for 6 years.
All right, and now he's got miles on his body, and now the league is faster and stronger and everything it is. So guess what? Now you're going to have to be that guy who spends more time on his craft to keep up to the level and bar you've established for yourself. So how about showing up to practice early? How about staying late? How about paying attention when the coaches are on the whiteboard? How about showing some intensity and fire
you made that
in the
up.
drills?
We haven't heard that. We haven't heard anything about him not paying attention in practice. Come on.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying the elements of a practice. What's required of you? Okay. Get out there early. Very good example for your teammates. Very helpful to your own game. Stay out late. Ditto. Pay attention on the whiteboard. There's going to be a whiteboard segment of the process. How many times of the practice? How many times this year did Tocchet go? I mean, we sit there and give them the information, but they got to apply it. So pay attention to what's going on the whiteboard. Show some fire and intensity during drills. Don't just go through the motions. And trust that you have assistant coaches and a full support staff that are there to help you. Resources available to you to help your game. Don't just think, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to deal with any of that. I'll figure it out on my own. I'm hardest on myself. No, not the case. It's not the case. That has been proven false. Your bosses have been harder on you than you have. So let's not trot out that line anymore. Let's not lean on that crutch.
Can we turn it around and say, all that is fine? Not a reasonable ask. We don't know how much has happened and not happened up until this point. Mm-hmm. But they also have to coach this player like he is the player that he is. And stop with the frickin' dump and chase.
I don't disagree.
If dump and chase is on that whiteboard, I can understand why his eyes glaze over. Like, they've got to coach this player for what he is. There's always going to have to be
an element of dump and chase. You're not going to be, yes, I understand, but, okay, that's not your game. Okay, you're better than that. Okay, you can do controlled zone entries. Completely agree.
And we saw the puck on the outside.
There are times you are going to have to dump and chase it.
Sure.
So don't treat that as, not my game. Treat that as, okay, here's how I get better in a finer point. Something that applies much more to the people around me than me, but something that I still need to be good at. Something that I still need to meet the requirements. Because here's the other thing. The two guys on your wing aren't as good as you as a puck carrier. They're going to need to dump and chase more. So when they dump it in, know where you got to be and bring the same mindset and bring the same commitment to those parts of the game as you do to the things that are your bread and butter.
But Rick Tocchet has admitted.
I don't think that's a big ask.
People figured out the Canucks. And that's why it looked like they were kept to the outside, because they couldn't get inside. And Rick Tocchet didn't have the answer.
And that is fair. The coach had his failings this year as well. He is not beyond criticism. In fact, there was a load of criticism for Rick Tocchet and staff this year. Deserved. But because the coach isn't batting 1,000, doesn't mean you can tune that out. Doesn't mean you don't have to abide.
No one wants to.
Still give the same maniacal effort on that, because that's what Stanley Cup champions are made of, at least the centerpieces on Stanley Cup champions. You have a Quinn Hughes hot take you wanted to get to.
Well, I got to thinking, again, is you try to protect yourself if you're Alvin and Rutherford against the unthinkable. And I want to give a little preamble here, because I'm not advocating for this. I'm not saying the Canucks need to do this.
This is going to be good, Mike. Clip it.
I'm not saying I would be happy necessarily if this happened. But Quinn Hughes, if you are getting the vibes from Quinn Hughes that this departure is more likely than not, and you've talked about, God, do they have to preemptively strike here a little bit? Because with 2 years left, his value is exponentially better than it is a year from now.
Yes.
I see one trade that, A, satisfies you on the ice, and B, satisfies you in the PR room as well.
Lane Hudson?
No. To the Chicago Blackhawks for Connor Bedard. And you're thinking to yourself, well, how does that, don't the Blackhawks find themselves in the same boat then? It's the Chicago Blackhawks, where you could try to lure your brothers to Chicago, or it's going to play in New Jersey for the Devils. And I think Quinn Hughes would feel a little bit better playing south of the border in an Original Six major market like Chicago and say, guys, honestly, come to me.
That's still a huge ask, though, of the Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks have seen
the
a step back.
The Blackhawks have to give up a would-be generational player and then still have to go out and acquire two more.
They've got a generational player coming. They've got a proven Connor Bedard is still a hopeful generational player. Took a step back this year. Had the same points in 20 more games. Mm-hmm. They've got one of the top 5 players on the planet in his prime. Mm-hmm. It is not a big ask of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Maybe a 3-way deal, Blake. I think you have to make that a 3-way deal with Quinn going to New Jersey and Canucks getting Bedard and Jersey giving Chicago a whole bunch.
See, the Blackhawks wouldn't do that, because the Blackhawks need somebody they can put on the poster and say, look what we've got. I know we promised you the promise of Connor Bedard. They need somebody, them putting Quinn Hughes, All-American, superstar player, maybe the best defenseman on the planet, that they could sell. And for Vancouver Canucks fans, of course, they could probably wrap their heads around Connor Bedard.
If I have to grade the take like we did in our old hot take segment, I'm going Skywalker.
Skywalker?
Luke.
Well, in my mind, you cut me off before I finished the trade.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I'm so sorry here. I have
Hughes and Levshunov.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I think that's a fair trade, honestly. It's a fair on-ice trade and off-ice trade.
Bedard and Lev Shunov for Quinn Hughes.
Yes, that is a fair trade. It just is.
Okay.
It just is. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I mean, this is a mid-August hot take that's dropping here in late April.
These are two possible stars for one supernova player in his prime. Not over the hill, in his prime. It's a fair trade.
Okay. Let's move on to Lionel Messi.
No vision. No vision.
I used that line with him once, like a decade ago, and it gets trotted back out and thrown into my face every time I poo-poo one of these things. The Caps are sold out for Lionel Messi, they announced this morning. 53,000 plus expected at BC Place tonight. It will be the largest crowd in their MLS history if it reaches those heights. Previously, it was 51,000. That was for the Miami game. Saw Messi last year. Ben Steiner of Northern Football notes the all-time record crowd for a Caps game at BC Place was 1983 when the stadium first opened. They had 60,000 in there. Of course, it's a different configuration since the renovation.
Let me jump in here. For those still holding out pessimism, cynicism, skepticism of Messi, moments ago,
oh my,
Inter Miami tweeting out semifinals in Canada, Vamos Miami, and a large picture of Messi. This is Miami tweeting it out.
Good sign, good sign.
Now it's false advertising if he doesn't play. Now, all those things you claimed happened.
He's got to play. If you put him on a plane, you have designs on playing him.
That almost makes me think
he's in bubble wrap today and doesn't hurt himself on his way to the stadium, you're going to see Lionel Messi tonight.
That almost makes me think he's starting, though, for him to be promoted by the club.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty exciting.
What do you think of Bedard and Lev Shunov for Messi?
Over the hill superstar. There's going to be some reticence.
Mortgaging your future. Yeah. The transfer window closed yesterday. The Caps did not add a player. Axel had previously said they were targeting a guy, so we're on to the summer.
But he didn't
we're
put
on
a
to a free agent,
yeah.
Or maybe we're on to an MLS trade. Those are allowed too, right?
But summer seems likely.
But massive event tonight, and we know how great a event town Vancouver is.
What we also know, though, Matt, is how great or not great it is entering a packed BC Place stadium.
Leave yourself time.
Please go early, or else you're just going to miss.
Doors are open like 2-3 hours before as well.
2 hours, yeah.
Plenty of time. And look, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan. This guy ranks with the single greatest athletes who have ever performed in our city.
Yep.
We've hosted an Olympic Games. We saw the best of the NBA and the NHL here. You've had other events over the history of Bannister, right? The Miracle Mon. Lionel Messi is right there and gives no quarter to any athlete who has been in our city and performing.
By far the best soccer player, and David Beckham was maybe the best at his position, but he wasn't the best player in the world.
Mm-hmm. Beckham's appeal was more than just the pitch, as we all know.
But Messi's got that too.
Ibrahimovic was here, right?
Yeah.
Another soccer god, if you will. And you go back to the old days, there would have been others as well. But on the very short list of all-time great athletes in human history to play in our city, Lionel Messi tonight. Tom Willander is playing for Sweden today in a pre-tournament game in advance of the World Championships against Finland. He's trying to make that team, of course. They don't just gift roster spots to NCAA sophomores.
And that was a very green team they iced today. That was a very SHL team.
Yeah, so they were looking at, okay, who amongst our young guys is going to show up here? Connor Garland and Drew O'Connor announced as members of Team USA. They've made the team.
Yes.
You don't need to worry about the two of them. Team USA is light forwards, though, so they're waiting to see who else shakes out in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Drew O'Connor had an 8-point World Championships 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Alongside Connor. They both had 8 points. So this tournament's good for Drew O'Connor.
I also noticed Jeremy Swayman is playing for the Team USA, which tells you a couple of things. Number one, Jeremy Swayman wants more work after the season that was for the Boston Bruins, but also, we talked about it. the U.S. is so good in goal. You show up to the World Championships, do you get a little extra shine in the eyes of those who will be picking the Olympic team next year? Speaking of the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have got to talk about Edmonton. L.A. puts up another 6 spot last night. They have 12 goals in 2 games as a low-scoring team. Our boy Kuzmenko goes for a goal and assist. He's got 5 points in 2 games. Edmonton is down 2-0. Now they're going home, and, you know, the old adage, the series doesn't start till the road team wins a game. But I just want to, because we had talked about this earlier in the week, like, teams that went out and fixed their goaltending over the last 2 years. One of them is in this series, the LA Kings. Darcy Kemper.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado Avalanche. Season was going to pot. Went out, got Blackwood, fixed their goaltending. New Jersey last year. Boy, ton of offensive talent there. Good looking. Went out, got Jacob Markstrom. For the most part, fixed their goaltending. Ottawa Senators. Save or 2 short too often last season. Went out, got Linus Ullmark, fixed their goaltending. Even the Vancouver Canucks, after Thatcher Demko has his popliteus injury in the summer, go out, get Kevin Lankinen, fix your goaltending.
Yeah.
What is preventing Edmonton from learning this lesson?
Because every once in a while, Stuart Skinner goes on a 2-week stretch.
That's not good enough. Fooled me twice. Shame on me.
For sure. I haven't been in.
It's appalling.
And again, by all accounts, Stuart Skinner is a gem of a human. So
Yep.
I feel bad piling on him like I have in my career here. But I would not trust him as my goalie, not for 1,000 years.
At the very least, you have to have another option there that is better than Calvin Pickard.
Yeah.
That was a tap-in putt for Stan Bowman.
And
All season long. Didn't have to be deadline. Earlier in the season would have worked too. Last summer would have worked too.
look at these prime years of Draisaitl and McDavid
Oh, it's unbelievable.
that have been now washed
Like,
away.
I am, as I watch these games and I watch L.A. scoring goals just at an insane pitch. Like, this is the L.A. Kings. How many times have we talked about the Canucks and Kings games over the last few years and just the games that fun forgot? Deathly boring. Trap it up, not looking for offense, passive hockey, and they're running up the scoreboard on Edmonton.
And Evan Bouchard's losing hundreds of thousands of dollars by the minute here, too.
Mm-hmm.
After a great year last year, granted.
He's a sensational offensive player,
But
and
my
he
goodness.
is a deeply flawed defensive player.
Yeah.
Who just doesn't seem to be getting better there either.
No, and that, you see that with younger players. He's sort of young, middle-aged player. That when the going gets rough, sometimes it just spirals, and it's spiraling for Evan Bouchard.
So we're talking about Quinn Hughes and maybe having to be preemptive. If this series goes as it has begun, Connor McDavid has 1 year left on his contract at $12.5 million before being a UFA. Could you see a world where Connor says, okay, it's just not working out here. They haven't built a good enough team around me. I want out, or I will be leaving after next season.
Well,
Could Edmonton be facing the same
yeah, for sure.
horrific question that we're contemplating here in Vancouver on Quinn Hughes?
I mean, it's been a decade for Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
It's been a decade, folks. And and I think what he'll do is what, Matthew Tkachuk did. I think because of the tenure that he's had with the team, I think he is, if it's going to happen, if he's leaving, like, I don't think he does, and this is RIP here, Johnny Gaudreau kind of left it and then just left. I don't think Connor McDavid's going to do that. I think Connor McDavid's going to say, listen, I think I'm probably leaning towards leaving here. If you want to move me, now's the time.
Yep.
I think he'll want to do right by the Edmonton Oilers in that
think so.
regard.
Yeah,
but if he wants to go,
And he's got the full no move, of course.
I would think this summer is when he tells them that.
Yep. And he gives them the list. Here are the teams.
Yeah.
And then they have to go out and make a hold their nose deal as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, you have that you can root for as a Vancouver Canucks fan, right?
I do feel
the breakup of the
little-
Oilers team, if they go down in flames, no pun intended, here to the LA Kings.
We have so many friends in the Nation Network.
They would be
in Edmonton.
Devastated. Oh,
Just
they would be
devastated. And so I do feel bad as I tweet and cheer against the Oilers.
Well, and of course, they lost Gretzky once before, right?
Yeah.
So let's get to our menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot for all the games, home and away, pre-post, your steps from the arena and stadium. Go there tonight before the big footy match at BC Place. They have the awesome arcade, the street food menu, amazing, and weekly drink specials. 50 West Cordova. Greta. Let the games begin. We'll talk to Patrick Johnston of the Province and Postmedia here. Rob Williams joins us as well. Tons of Canucks talk keeps up. Patrick can give us his 2 cents on what he thinks on Willander here and what this could mean in terms of that second line center search. Because if Willander and the Canucks are not going to get together on a contract this summer, I think he's absolutely a trade chip for them. And Patrick thinks so as well.
By the way, in the chat right now, Gord says, McDavid has a heated driveway. He's not going anywhere. I don't think that's a big enough lure. It's transportable.
The problem with the heated driveway is when something goes wrong underneath the driveway.
Tear up the driveway, yeah.
Let's get to our Bet365 bets of the day. I took some futures yesterday surrounding the National Football League first round. So did you win your bet yesterday, Blake? Do you remember your bet from yesterday, Blake?
Matt, here's the thing. When you are on a heater like I've been of late.
He's been pretty good, it must be said.
Yeah. You tend to do well. I'm wasting time here trying to remember my bet. I don't remember.
I'm going to take the 2 teams who have must-wins tonight, and that is the St. Louis Blues and the Ottawa Senators, both facing 2-0 holes in their best-of-7 series, both on home ice for the first time in this series. And, of course, if you fall behind 3-0 in a Stanley Cup playoff series, you have a snowball's chance. So Blues at plus 100 over the Jets, Senators at minus 130 against the Leafs.
Lost my bet. I remember it was McDavid and Draisaitl playing together. So I'll take the
right. You had
winners.
all the points there for those two.
3 points for McDavid. Wasn't there. I'm going to go and look at the home dog, Minnesota Wild. I don't love the Wild in this series, but first game back at home, I might like them here. And then the Golden Knights to take over from there on in. So I'll take the Wild plus 135.
I think people forget, Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek make them a different team. They
sure.
played a long stretch of the second half without those. Yeah.
Yep.
Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you from game props, player props, totals, money line. You can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, Stanley Cup champions, and so much more. Whatever the bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older. Patrick Johnston coming up next. I'm Sakaris. He's Price. We're at the Wall Center.
And Matt's playing a lot of golf these days, which is, good for him, I guess. A lot of fun, but that's a lot of bogey juice consumed for one Matt Sakaris, from what I understand. Little birdie's telling me what happened on the back nine there, Matt. Let's hope that you were ready with either your individual size portions. Maybe you've got your full bottle. Pouring some cocktails.
It would be more efficient now to bring the full bottle, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bogeyjuice.com. It's what makes being an amateur, an average to bad golfer, that much more fun. A good walk spoiled? No longer, as long as you've got Bogey Juice on board with you. Bogeyjuice.com. Use the code SP15. Get your 15% off and enjoy golf again.
Johnston, Patrick, he covers the Canucks.
So, is this related? Like, Irv played 9 before 9, and I see J-Pat making jokes about 9 on 9.
Yeah.
Does this relate to Matthew?
No, different experiences.
Okay.
You see, bogeys happen for most people. That's why
That's
bogey
all.
juice
If I
makes
ever
more sense.
played, that's all I would be. So bogey
Yeah.
juice would be great for me.
For the record, I sunk an 18-footer for birdie 2 on number 8 yesterday. but
Attaboy. Okay, well done.
Offset.
Complete opposite.
It was all downhill from there.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah.
Canucks had a couple big wins too, but they had a lot of bogeys as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a good year, if you'd heard.
What were you surprised Rutherford answered the question on Hughes as he did, and what do you think he was hoping to achieve with the answer?
Well, I think he was speaking realistically. No, I wasn't surprised, to be honest. I mean, if there's one thing we've learned about Jim Rutherford, it's that he will, in general, deal in the truth. It was a truthful answer. It was like, listen, we know it's a challenge, and we are going to do everything we can to make this happen. So, no, I wasn't surprised. I mean, there was an element, I think he knew right away as soon as he made the Hughes brothers kind of quip that he might get himself into trouble. Now, I guess he didn't. And I wish managers were able to talk a bit more loosely in those terms. Oh, my God, he's interested in other teams' players?
Yeah, that player's good. Yeah.
How do trades happen? But no, I think he was saying, listen, we know it's there. It's there. We're not going to hide from it. Just as they basically talked about how they were with Tocchet. This is the biggest contract the Canucks will have ever signed with a coach. We think it's a good offer. Now, they're staging themselves. I mean, you perpetually go, they are framing themselves, like with the Willander situation. Are they framing themselves, priming people for the opposite to happen? Sure. But he certainly speaks from his own truth, and he's not the first manager to do that. He's just better at it than his predecessor.
Well, does anybody else get the sense that? Are you familiar with that scene in A Few Good Men? Tom Cruise has Jack Nicholson on the stand. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. That sort of dynamic is playing out between Rutherford and this fan base, huh?
A little bit.
Like, the public thinks they want the truth, and then he gives them the truth, and I'm not sure the public can handle the truth.
They know. Of course they know. It's a big thing in front of them. It's kind of everything. I'd rather they talked about it than not. There were a lot of the problem was that there were so many elephants in the room to be talked about. We didn't actually end up talking about all of them. We only had so much time.
So many elephants, like a big top.
Our poll question today, our Suri Mitsubishi poll question, is asking if the Canucks are better off just running back the core or trading away Demko and Pettersson in particular. I mean, you could theoretically attach Hughes to this poll question as well, but
right.
Given the uncertainty in any trade, given what you have seen out of Demko and Pettersson in the past, what's your gambling, feeling like on that, and just rolling the dice and saying, hey, we know it's in there somewhere versus trying to bail on the contracts now.
Let me read you a headline from June 7th, 2024. Canucks. This is a big summer for Elias Pettersson, Rick Tocchet says.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a topic for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you think about that and you think about essentially them saying the same thing again, I do think a lot about the question of the core and where they're going to go with this. And there is an immense amount of frustration with essentially where this core finds itself or doesn't find itself, I suppose is a better way to put it, and why that took place. And I mean, I've talked about it before, but to reiterate, there is frustration level, I think, of sort of how, or not frustration, but there's sort of a reality of here that they feel is that you look at the players that were essentially the core players, the young star players that were here when Rutherford, Alvin, and then Tocchet arrived, and how they had been handled or not pushed more than they could have been or should have been before they arrived. And that in many ways, they were all handed Porsches and all said, go drive wherever you want. And there was no sort of ongoing sort of how to drive this car best kind of thing, and how much better you can drive it if you only do this, this, and this. And they are now, I think, down the road dealing with, they feel, the consequences of a lack of that. I mean, and you look at, I mean, we talked about Vasily Podkolzin, he's an example of that. Niels Höglander has found his way, I think, to a degree, but still didn't have a great season. Like, the way that they've had to keep reconnecting, and then as the question was put, does any of this get through to Pettersson? That's a question that they, I'm sure, are considering themselves as they look at the next 2 months ahead of
it.
No move kicking in. Like, is
That's
this
it.
actually going to hit? Because last year they said it needed to hit, and clearly it didn't. And that's not a new thing. So
yeah, I mean, the thing about Pettersson is, what they're saying is, it's not just about getting stronger. It's not just about summer training.
Yeah.
It's not just about practice habits and preparedness. The overarching term there is commitment. It's about commitment. And that is a very difficult thing to get overcome, right? And so I think the next couple of months here before the draft and what they observe of Elias, his interactions with the club while he's at Rogers Arena, I think those are going to play a very large role in how willing Alvin is to trade him. And as we know, the GM is keeping his options open.
So the question I have for both of you then, why is there no commitment? Is that just who the guy is, or is that because of the situation that he finds himself in? Because when he was, flirting with all sorts of award honors after the 100-point season,
yeah,
I didn't hear that being blasted as loudly as it is now.
I think two things. What Patrick just said about getting the keys to a Porsche and go on, have your fun, was how he was approached and handled early by previous management groups and coaches. And then secondly, this was the first injury. This is the first time where he couldn't just get by on talent alone, especially with the league getting faster. I watched the Stanley Cup playoffs and the puck movement and the skating, everybody being able to skate, everybody. The league gets better and better every year, and I don't think Elias has kept up with the Joneses. That is my answer. But what says you, Peach?
Well, no, you're onto something. I mean, if you think about the answer to the question I put to him on Friday, about, I basically said, what can be done? What changed for your team year to year? You guys were really good at getting inside last year, getting to the high danger areas. It didn't happen. Why was that?
No.
And he sort of talked around it, but in the end, he also admitted that I think there was an awareness that they got scouted out to a degree. And it wasn't until late in the year that they reset themselves. And you think about the way Tocchet himself changed the way he talked. He talked a lot earlier in the year about needing to get inside, what the far guy was doing. But by the end of the year, he was talking a lot more about what his centermen were doing and how they were attacking the zone and what they would do when they get to the blue line. And a lot of it became about essentially changing your angle once you've gained the zone. And for whatever reason, that had not been a point of emphasis earlier in the year. And that was on Miller, that was on Pettersson, especially. Once Filipino showed up, I mean, Filipino obviously is a much faster skater than anybody else the Canucks had. But the way he attacked the middle of the ice was exactly the way the Canucks had been having success last year. And in many ways, that's where Pettersson needs to get back to be successful NHL player. And the preparation thing obviously is big. It is all a bit weird, Jim Rutherford talking about, well, he needs to be better at his detail, blah, blah, blah. I mean, a fantastically diligent defensive player. Like, he is a guy that has, I think I mentioned before, I once asked him this, and he said, well, I don't like not having the puck. He back checks to get the puck back. He's very good at it. But it became a problem what was happening through the neutral zone, what was happening once they gained the blue line. And he really struggled with that. And we could all see it. And the fact that the other thing that stood out was Harm asked him about the shot velocity, the skating velocity, the decline in both for so much of the season. And PD didn't really want to answer it. So that remains a mystery why that happened. Obviously, there was an element. I do think there was an element in terms of leg strength. We've talked about that before. in terms of just accelerating. He was a fast skater not just 2 seasons ago, right? It's not like, he's not a graceful athlete, but he has been a powerful athlete. He has done all the things that we are talking about. We are not talking about these things as if they're things he's never done before. He skates fast, he shoots hard, and he did very little of that this year. And whether that was about preparation or simply confidence or not understanding how he was being defended, he needs to fix all of those things probably to have a dominant season again next year.
The question is, internally, does he have the pride, do you think, to say, I got to prove all these effers wrong here. I'm like I can do this. I'm going to find the right people. Like, he has all the money in the world now, Patrick.
Yeah.
He could hire trainers, physio, all that. Like, is he going to have that? Oh, they have no idea what's coming here. Like, I would want to prove everybody wrong, especially if I had all the resources. I hope that he has that.
Yeah, and to me, it's more than anything, it's coming down to sort of understanding the why, and sort of how people react to you, and I think that is something he struggles a bit with. Like, there is definitely an element of communication in terms of how he appreciates and understands things and understands people, and what people's motivations are, and why they're coming at him, and you look at the sort of the frustrations that Tocchet has clearly expressed in terms of what practice is for, what we are trying to accomplish in practice, as well as the sort of mental preparation of it. I mean, think back to last year when he was struggling. There was a comment at one point where Tocchet referenced Alex Hodgins, their mental performance coach, like basically indicating he thought there's a guy to talk to help you get yourself through this.
Yeah.
And I think the implication was in many ways that he wasn't falling through that. I mean, he is an unconventional lone wolf person. We know this, right? And finding solutions to problems. He is not, I don't think, conventional in how he does those things. And I think that will continue to be a challenge for this team to connect with him on. I think that's just the simple truth. He is a unique personality. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So it comes back to connecting with him about these issues in a way that he will appreciate. And we'll see if that works. I mean, the proof literally is going to be in the pudding with him next year, wherever he is.
What are you hearing on Tocchet?
Well, I mean, what we knew is he was going home to Vegas on Saturday. He was planning to be back today. There's still meetings. There's still planning to happen. Obviously, Rutherford indicating he thought that Tocchet would probably make his decision this week. People ask me, I've been kind of going just sort of 60-40 no, just because it's hard for me if I'm sitting him, especially now that Rutherford said we are not going to use our option on him. He's either back on a long-term contract or he's not back at all. The equation now for Tocchet clearly is that what are the opportunities out there? I can look and see the teams that currently have openings and figuring out what other teams might yet have openings or be interested in bringing him in. So I just sort of look at those doors that are available and say the odds that he will be interested in one of those doors seem reasonable. But I'm not ruling out a return. I think there's enough in this challenge that intrigues him. But the challenge is clearly different. As Rutherford did, we're no longer, we are a team in transition, Rutherford said. And so that's realistic. And then there's that whole Quinn Hughes question, right? So what are you signing on for? Are you signing on for just 1 year Quinn Hughes and then you start worrying about he's going to go? Like, what is next year going to look like? What is the year after that going to look like? And those are going to be hard answers for the Canucks no matter what, because even if they do trade Tom Willander and try to bring in a center for him, who is that center? Who is that player? What does this lineup look like? If you let Brock Besser walk, how are you replacing? You do need wingers who can score goals. Yeah. Brock Besser in his career has scored at a better rate than Nikolai Ehlers, for instance. There's a stylistic difference between those two players, but the results are the same. So, what is this roster going to look like, and how well can they deliver on it? And I think that becomes the question.
How much of his Tocchet's decision do you think pivots on Elias? Like, do you think he's thrown his arms up on Elias, and that if they plan to keep Elias, then Rick wants to go elsewhere?
Well, yeah, I do think I'm sure that's a large part of it. And can I get this guy to drink from the water? Like, is this going to be where I think it needs to go? And I'm not sure he's convinced of that. There's been we can see the frustration, and in the end, his number one center, he was supposed to be his number one center, and he didn't play like one. And you can't help but sit back and go, wow, he got his contract and I don't think Pettersson consciously did that, but there is that character question and the core question, and it comes back to all that. He is, there's still Pettersson and Hughes and Demko and Besser to a degree, right? Like, that is the core that was here when they arrived, and as I've said, they've looked at how they were handled and how things happened and where things went, and that is the large part of their problem today, is what went before, and there's no easy fix to changing that core at this point, even given who's left.
So in large part, you believe Rick Tocchet won't come back if he's sure that Elias Pettersson will be here?
No, I don't think so. I think it's more complicated than that. I think it comes back to what he thinks the player is going to be able to do this summer. What is he, where is he going to be next fall? And what would it be so unconventional as to have another meeting with all three parties, management, Pettersson, and Tocchet, like to really?
No, why not?
No
meetings.
But would they do it? That makes sense to us, but would they do that? Do you think?
Well, at this point, Pettersson is under no obligation to do something like that, right? No. It would behoove him to do it, but I think that has been an issue, is that the obvious things have not always proven to be so obvious to him. So
going back to the Miller thing too, it feels like that was the case there too, right?
I still don't. I'm not sure really what. Despite what was said, there's just so much unknown, that I think that is left out there, that I think is still it's a difficult topic to really try to point any fingers in anything.
To know for sure. Yes.
Lastly, why are they doing Tom Willander like this?
I don't know, man. Like I said, when things, I started realizing things were going haywire. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago? I can't even remember now. I've lost track. 10 days ago? Whenever that was. When did the season end?
The season ended 1 week ago.
I know. No, I know.
8 days ago.
I know. There's already. My initial, I was like, I think they're going to trade him. That was just my gut. I don't have any sort of insight on that particular. But then Rutherford goes and admits, or one of them admitted. They both admitted that to get the center, to get the top player they know they need, they're going to have to make a trade. They don't have a lot of options, right? Like I think they were close to, actually, there was a sequence where they were close to trading Philip Hedl, as a potential chip to move to get a different center. But he's dealing with concussion, if no he's value. A trade, I don't know really. He's a trade chip. Like, Willander is one, Lekkerimäki is another, but they need Lekkerimäki to hit at this point. So I don't think they're trading him. I don't think it would be smart. They certainly went into the season thinking they could trade their own first rounder, because I think they thought they were going to be in the playoffs going deep, and it would be a pick in the 20s. But I don't think they can trade, even though their pick is 15 or whatever. Like, I don't think that's a
15th in a boring draft.
It's a boring draft. I get that, but they don't have any guys.
No, it's true.
So they need to bring in some guys, and they need some young guys. And there's, every week it feels like I detail a new team that is in the playoffs, and it's not that they've entirely been built in the draft, but they have key guys they found in the draft, and the Canucks need to find a few more key guys in the draft in the years to come. So moving there first, I suppose, will help you, but geez Louise, that's
what's the biggest piece there? The first
Robbie
pick,
Peter to pay Paul at that point. Sorry,
what's got the most value?
Again.
What's got the most value? The first round pick, Lekkerimäki, Willander. I mean, maybe Elias Pettersson, who put up. Who's got the most?
I can't imagine them trading
Value.
Elias Pettersson at this point. Like the player has arrived. There's huge value in him. They like how he plays.
Got to give to get.
Yeah,
I get
so
it. But
let me push back and ask you this. Okay, there's huge value there. I don't think he's ever going to be an offensive defenseman.
Sure.
Right? And for the time being, he's playing third pair minutes behind Hughes. And so how valuable is that? Like, is that not something you can replace relatively? Like if he's the apple in other teams' eye and you're getting a top 2 center.
Okay, yeah,
I love
sure.
D-Petey too, but you've got to make that deal.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be on its own, but
no, but
you
okay,
have
Matt,
to add
listen.
To him.
If he carries enough weight in a trade that he can get you that, and you're not having to give him much more, great. I do think that in terms of his playability plus the contract, the way he fits in the cap, the fact that they did think about him being a possible Hughes partner, like there's a lot there.
And
but
piss
you're right.
and vinegar, which they don't have a ton of,
and the
right?
piss and vinegar. Yeah. But you're also right. Like don't get too excited about your own guys. Like if there's something if you can sell high on him, like realistically, I mean it's maybe a bit different from selling high on a goalie, but like there is that element of, do you actually know he is this? And you don't. He's played 25 games in 24 whatever it is games in NHL. Like he impressed in them, but a lot of guys step into the league as rookies, do well, and then turn out to be Ben Hutton. You know, like I think he's better than I do think there's more hockey smarts there. But Ben Hutton in the end has had a nice little career, and he's a useful number 8 guy in Vegas. But that said, like you're looking to find guys that are going to become long. You are looking to find Chris Tanev, right? And you hope that is what Pettersson proves to be. Mm-hmm. But you cannot, like, to cite someone we know, hope is not a plan, and you cannot hope that Elias Pettersson is going to be that guy. You have to know that he's going to be that guy. Otherwise, yes you should be willing to trade him. Mm-hmm. But to answer the original question, like I think of those options, I do think Tom Willander is probably the highest value.
Yes.
I mean, look, he's been picked to the World Championships, right? Like
so,
Sweden thinks highly. He had a good season with BU. He did not set himself up to be, oh my God, this guy's ready to play massive minutes in the NHL. He's not. I don't think he's Brock Faber, but he's a guy that is trending well, and there's a lot to like about what he does.
What I think Canucks fans have to wrap their heads around, with Rutherford saying we've got to do better than that, than the available free agent centerman. So if you're going to do better than a Tavares, a Duchesne, a Bennett, someone like that on the trade market, it is probably going to cost you 3 of Willander, Lekkerimäki, your first-round pick, D-Petey.
Yeah. It's something
maybe
big.
It's 2 with some extra sugar, like apart from those 4 assets. But
maybe it's 2 in Garland.
But yeah, like I think a third significant piece has to be in your frame of mind and in your expectation. If you're acquiring a number 1 or number 2 center, with term, not coming off major injury, not coming off a dreadful season, like the plug and play number 1 or 2 center is going to cost you something huge like that.
And just
unless you're willing to take a bet. Like last year, Dubois was available. Washington made a bet on him, and they did pretty well. If you can find that sort of trade, okay. But if you're going to do better than the available free agents, wow, that is a hefty price tag.
And if you are treating a guy like Garland, like, okay, who you bring, you need guys to play with your top centers, right? Like, I get why you would consider moving Garland, but you also, and it comes back to the Besser question. Like, you still need guys to put the puck in the net, and those guys put the puck in the net. So what are you going to find out there that's, I suppose stylistically you're going to find a different player. But in terms of results.
Well, I mean, to address that particular hypothetical, I mean, you get back to the fundamental building blocks of a roster, and that is down the middle and on D and in goal. And you're prioritizing the centers and going, we are really weak on the wing. But if there's anything that you can do to find goals, it's finding wingers. Like the wingers are do grow on trees more than anything else. So maybe that's still a thing worth pursuing, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Thank you for this. Have a great week. Catch up next Thursday.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
Brought to you by your friends at Pacific Toyota dealers across the province. And you have to jump inside a BZ4X. There's so much to choose from today, but until you felt it, you don't know it. And so what their best advice is, they're not going to sell you with all the list of all the various features. It's the experience. Go to your Pacific Toyota dealer, get behind the wheel of a BZ4X, if only for a few minutes. You can go for as long as you want. They'll tell you where to go. But it is the experience of driving a fully electric vehicle it's such a joy to drive. And, of course, you get all the perks of HOV lane and skipping the gas stations and all that. So go check it out. Up to $6,500 in rebates will get you there a little bit faster, perhaps. How about 0.99% APR financing for 36 months as well? Should also kick you in the butt as well. Shop Toyota.ca or your Pacific Toyota dealers.
Rob Williams is the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. Rob, the Abbotsford Canucks hockey guy on Twitter. The Canucks are done, Rob, but I know you, like many others, glued to that press conference Monday. The Hughes comment jumped out to you, did it?
Guys, I was absolutely blown away. It was the last question of the presser. There was no reason to bring up the Hughes, like the brother connection, in terms of the question that was asked. The question was asked, I think, formed in the way that has been talked about in the market a lot recently is like, are you concerned about Hughes leaving and what do you have to do to keep him happy? Like it was something to the effect of that. And
he said 100% agree. That was the first words out of his mouth.
Well, I mean, I think that was fine. I like that kind of honesty from Rutherford is great, right? Like why sugarcoat it? Like, yeah, we really need to keep him and we're gonna, he basically said they were gonna buck up, they're gonna clear enough cap space to make sure that they'd have enough money to give him the contract that he deserves. But then he says, well, maybe it won't even come down to money, and it might be something to do with his. And then mentioning that he said that he wants to play with his brothers, like this. I mean, I'm sure, like Hughes will get asked about this, of course. I'm sure he'll give a very diplomatic answer on the first day of training camp or in one of the informal skates in September, and we'll kind of move on. But it's going to be a talking point now. Like, I mean, for the media, this is great. Like, gives us something to talk about. And so why, in one sense, like why should we criticize something like this? But from the position of Canucks management, who we keep hearing that they want to reduce the noise. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm not sure they do want to reduce.
I see there's three possibilities here, Rob.
They don't behave as though they want to reduce.
Which door is this? It's just him vomiting truth, and he just couldn't help himself. He was just speaking off the cuff, and it is what it is. That's possibility one. The second one is it's calculated, and he's feathering the nest for the departure, and he's basically saying, we saw this coming. There was nothing we could do. Don't blame me. Or it's three, it's calculated because it's the start of him trying to manufacture some miracle trade of one direction or the other. Which of the three is the most likely scenario for you?
I think it has to be option number one because, I mean, we're a full year away from them being able to start negotiations. Like, I think it's probably unlikely that they have a great idea that Hughes is already out the door. Right, like whether that happens or not, I can't imagine.
You don't think they know that now?
I can't imagine that Hughes has communicated that, hey guys, yeah, you know what? In a year from now, I'm not going to sign an extension. Like I just can't. That seems far-fetched.
I can't imagine that, Rob. But the exit meeting would have been interesting with Hughes. Your second year captain, and that's
if they're this honest with us. Imagine what's happening in that room.
Well, and imagine how honest Quinn is in that room with regards to, okay, I not only have to be the best player on this team, but I'm sorry I have to deal with shit like that all year. Like I can understand if they were put on notice or basically hinted at that more of that, and I'm walking.
I mean, unless they're planning to trade him this summer, and they already know that it's going down that road. I don't see that. Like, you've got a whole year to convince him to stay. There's many ways you can do that. And then the other option of like, is this like, do they actually think getting his brothers out of New Jersey is a possibility? Like, if this is a real thing, like that you, the only way you hold on to Quinn is by getting his brothers here. If you're New Jersey, those are the only two guys you do not touch from your roster, because you can get Quinn Hughes in a year or two. Like, so it makes no sense to me whatsoever. I think the chances of them getting either Hughes brother, I mean, I hope this is a clip you guys played to make me look foolish and down the road, because they've swung a deal for Jack and Luke Hughes. But like, I just don't see it happening. It just seemed lunacy to bring any of it up, and now it's like, it's not just like some theory on that a Canucks fan is bringing up on Reddit. Now this is like a legitimate question that Hughes can be asked. It's a legitimate question for us to be discussing, because the president of Hockey Ops basically said, I might need to go trade for his brothers or Quinn is gone. I mean, that's wild stuff. Why bring it up? I don't understand the benefit to the team.
So I'm just going to put this out there, and you've already sort of hinted at your answer, but like, does the Quinn Hughes trade this summer, does that not give you your instant rebuild? Like, does that not give you 4, 5, 6 assets where all of a sudden you're a much deeper organization, even if you lose the star power of Quinn? But of course, you might be losing them in 2 years anyway. That doesn't appeal to you in the least, Rob Williams.
Maybe Alex Edler's record is safe. Maybe it won't get surpassed. Could you imagine? I mean, guys,
he would
like,
send the biggest bouquet of flowers. He would be, thank you for preserving me.
He'd be like the Miami Dolphins perfect team. He'd be popping the champagne.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, still, and still the champ. No, like, I mean, they've waited 55 years for a defenseman like this. You got to do everything you can to keep him in on the roster. I just don't see it. Even if you think he's likely gone a year from now, or likely not going to sign an extension, you can change people's minds. Like, you just need to make him happy, and you need to. And I think the thing that's going to make Quinn Hughes happy is feeling like he can win a Stanley Cup with this team in the future. I don't think they need to turn it around all in one summer and make him think that they're gonna lift the cup in 2 years' time necessarily. But there's got to be a future at the very least for that to happen. And I guess the other thing is, like, we're talking about bringing two of his brothers here. They really only need to bring one, right? You bring one, and then he doesn't need to leave to New. You don't need to. Yeah, I mean,
if you make a big trade for Jack and you give up the farm for Jack, then it's about waiting out Luke.
But if you get Jack, it doesn't matter necessarily if you get Luke, right? It's up to Luke to join his brothers in Vancouver at that point, right?
Yeah. The other thing to keep him happy is to just create a winner, of course. Surround him with enough talent that, they're so close to the Stanley Cup, he couldn't possibly leave to New Jersey. Maybe, after watching the playoffs and seeing sort of what's working, should they surround him with some of the hot performers? The guys that we know can perform in the playoffs. Guys like that Kuzmenko guy in L.A., the Beauvillier guy, Chatfield, Gaudette, like guys that perform in the playoffs. Is that what the
Nate
Canucks
Schmidt to give him the puck as well? Yeah.
I mean, it seems so simple. Like, those are the guys you keep around, right?
I looked at it yesterday. This is before last night's games. I think it was around like 9% of the goals scored in the playoffs had been scored by former Canucks players. It was just unbelievable. Amazing. Yeah, so the list is Kuzmenko's got 2, Schmidt's got 2, Beauvillier, OEL has a goal for Toronto, Jalen Chatfield.
But all their points too. They're all getting assists as well.
Like no offense defensemen like Chatfield are scoring.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's unbelievable.
It is interesting. I mean, I was looking at like, okay, are these guys actually difference makers on their teams? Like, looking just sort of like just a quick look at like ice time and whatnot. I mean, most of them, like Gaudette is not playing a ton for the Sens.
But Gaudette scored a whole lot.
Defenseman.
Gaudette was it like 18, 19 goals this year for Adam Gaudette?
And his rate per 60 was
his rate per 60 would be off the charts. Yeah, because he played pretty much on the fourth line all year, and he scored that many goals.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, no. I mean, Ekman Larsson is playing as a top 4 defenseman for the Leafs this year. I mean, and that's a first place team. So I think you have to give him his due. He's I don't think he'd fallen completely off. Does that seem like a long time ago now that they bought out OEL so that they could sign Carson Soucy and Ian Cole? I think there's going to be some. I don't know how that one's going to get relitigated. I think because you look at what it's going to cost them going forward to have Ekman Larsson winning a Stanley Cup with the Panthers and playing a significant role on the Leafs. It's gonna be interesting at the very least to take another look at that one. But the guy that's making the biggest difference, Beauvillier is playing 15 minutes a night, but the guy's playing the biggest difference is Andrei Kuzmenko, 18 minutes a night. He's got 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists. He's great on the power play. But he's also, he's playing like big minutes. He's playing on their top line with Kopitar. Who saw that coming?
Honestly, and Rob, when he got moved from Philly to LA, was that deadline day or just before, whenever it was?
Yep.
I turned and said to Blake, if there's a worse system for Kuzmenko to be in than Tortorella's, it's Jim Hiller's in LA. Like a defensive, like they go back to playing 1-3-1. Remember, Doughty said at the beginning of the year, we're not going to play 1-3, or Kopitar said at the beginning of the year, they don't want to play. They still play 1-3-1. They still play this super passive, trapping defensive system, and there's freaking Andrei Kuzmenko.
I watched a couple back checks. They are not super intense,
but they're present.
But yes, you can tell he's got the magnifying glass on, and I think he knows, guys. He's in the playoffs now. I think he knows, okay, I know I can coast a little bit in October, but I'm not doing that now. And yeah, he's playing just fine. He's playing just fine.
Mayor of Wrongville for me. Rob, let's ask you our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Does bringing back Pettersson and Demko, is that a better idea than trading both?
I mean, I'd like to know what the offers are, but I think so. I you know me. I mean, I probably have my plan is like the boring plan. Like don't overreact to what was a really, really disappointing year. Because I think you're going to be trading you would be trading Elias Pettersson right now at his all-time low value, right? And there's a ton of reason to believe that he'll bounce back and be the guy that he's been through most of his career, right? It's been frustrating. It's been so frustrating. The last year's been brutal, but you have a summer off. You can train properly. They've got the Canucks have given him the list of things to do this summer. I think he bounces back. I really do. Am I 100% confident? No, but I think that's the bet you have to make this summer. And same thing with Thatcher Demko. Like, what are you getting for Thatcher Demko? The goaltending market's always weird, but what are you going to get for Demko? I don't know that, I think you lower your ceiling if you trade both of those guys because you're going to be trading them at super low value. The better bet is to bring them back and hope they return to being that all-star level that they were the season before last.
Yep, and they've already made a trade at low value, lower your ceiling deal on JT Miller. Lastly, Lionel Messi here in Vancouver tonight. You guys were tracking his flight yesterday, Rob?
We were tracking the flight, I now follow Inter Miami's Instagram and Twitter accounts. We were all over that. It's funny how the announcement comes in the form of like an Instagram post with Inter Miami showing Messi at the airport. Like they can't announce it. They can't say that he's coming. They can't do any of that. But it all comes out through social media. So that was the first inkling that we got. And then, people were tracking the plane on social media. There were people that greeted him as he got off the plane, yelling, "Hey, Messi," and he waved. There were people at UBC. They were training last night, and people kind of peeking through the bushes, and I saw there were people climbing trees. I have not heard about a drone yet. I did think that was, you're in Canada now, there should have been a drone, but there were no drone spotting yet. But I think it's really cool. I'm going to be there tonight. It's really exciting. I think it's going to be this is one of the biggest sporting events of the year, right? Like it's going to be a real event at BC Place, and let's just hope he plays. I mean, can you imagine if he doesn't actually touch the pitch? I think he will play. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to play.
He's got to play. You play. He'll play.
I don't think they bring him in the air. The longest flight of the season.
You don't bring him in the air down to put him on the pitch. Okay, you two enjoy tonight. Perhaps you'll be seatmates at the BC Place press box. Get your popcorn ready, and we'll catch up next week. Thanks, Rob.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Secure price from the historic Wall Center, where you extend your game night with a staycation in downtown Vancouver right here at the Wall. Call 604-331-1000. Ask for the exclusive Secure price rate, some blackout date supply based on availability. And this segment is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. Oh, weather days to play golf. We've had some, and more are coming, and spring preparations underway. Opening day at the Whistler Golf Club is May 9th, now accepting online bookings for the entirety of the 2025 season. No need to wait. Get those times locked in, and if you do have a group of 12 or more, you want to get on this quickly. The prime times are filling up fast. Get those tee times on hold, and tell them about your group. WhistlerGolf.com/groups. Follow on social at Whistler Golf.
And this great weather means May 9th will probably be in very, very good shape.
Think so. Yeah. I would think so. A few more things on the Professional Women's Hockey League and the new Vancouver franchise from yesterday's big announcement. So they're going to debut next season. The primary color is Pacific Blue. The secondary is cream. As you noted yesterday, both the Pacific Coliseum and the Agrodome, the practice facility, will be getting upgrades as part of this deal. And they've already sold out their premium membership deposits. So the demand looks pretty good here in the opening hours. Still no team name, logo. That will come in time here. They might want to consult Blake Price and his...
Just saying. Got great ideas. Great ideas.
He's got a little, boutique branding firm. Doesn't publicize it much, but you ask him for his opinion, he's got one.
Yeah.
What do you think of Pacific Blue and cream? You okay with that?
Cream is dangerous.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it tends to look a little dirty. Like I think back to the Millionaires replica.
Yeah.
It's
not clean.
Not clean. So I don't love that.
Okay. Pacific Blue you like, though.
Yeah, that's good. Nice. Expansion draft, no date. Regular draft is June 24th. Mm-hmm. But I would guess by the end of June, you have a pretty good idea
I would hope so, yeah.
of the core for next season. Pretty exciting.
Yep. New CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnston has met the media. I'm disappointed in this. We're going to have to grill him when we have him on the show.
One big difference from his predecessors.
Expansion is not a priority. Mm-hmm. I'm troubled by that because, as we know, the CFL schedule is clunky. The divisions are unbalanced with five in the West and 4 in the East. I also think that when Ottawa came back in the league a decade ago now, really breathed new life into the league. Like the scenes from that stadium were fantastic. They did a great job launching that franchise. And, I still have dreams of either a coast-to-coast league with an Atlantic franchise or get into Quebec City. It's such a hotbed of football these days. You have a natural geographic rival there with the Alouettes. That could be, yet another regional rivalry that you can put forth on, on the big dates, whether it's Thanksgiving, Labor Day, opening day. Anyways, and then long term, I do think you have to look about maybe some American cities, border towns, places that are underserved football-wise. Can't believe I'm saying that because of, the first U.S. expansion trial for the league. But in terms of growth potential, I think once you get one more Canadian franchise, you're pretty much tapped out there.
Well, Iguano said it wasn't a bad idea, just poorly executed. Yeah. It's a possibility. And I think the interesting part is that Stu comes from, especially late in his career with Bell Media, a very budget-oriented thing. So
it's a very... He was the revenue guy, but yes, he would have been subject to those.
Yeah, and I think he's going to look at... He'll do a deep dive as soon as he's only been on the job for a couple of weeks, but... I think he's going to look at the possibilities and the risks of a smaller population base in Quebec City and in the Atlantic provinces and just go, the financial risk is just too great. We're just going to end up propping up those teams.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the argument against it, right?
Well, stadium is the big argument.
Well, that's the biggest impediment.
You need a stadium.
Yeah.
Now, Laval has never wanted to play nice with the CFL. They sort of want to own their own fiefdom.
Yeah.
They do fantastic crowds there, 17,000, 18,000 for the Rouge and Or. But, of course, that's 4 games. So you have a potential partner there if attitudes change. You almost have to build one from scratch in Atlantic Canada. That is prohibitive. And of course, the financial means of the owner is a big one as well. I think those are your 2 big concerns on the way in. The rest of it, though, it is a new revenue stream. It is new eyeballs, new markets opened up. It is expansion fees paid to the existing owners. And, I just don't think you can put a one of the issues the CFL has is just the paucity of teams. You're looking at, multiple games against the same team, even on your home schedule, right? It would be fantastic if you got to 10 teams and you play everybody home and away, and that's your 18-game schedule, right? Everyone will be here once. You will go to everybody else's stadium once. You have balance. Everybody plays the same schedule. Anyways.
Not enough money people demand in the Windsor-London corridor, is there?
Well, once upon a time, there was some agitation from a Windsor mayor about getting a franchise. The problem is that Windsor, right across the river from Detroit, is just so attuned to American sports that it has never sort of been a CFL hotbed. You even talk to kids from Windsor, like Luke Wilson and some others, they just, all their designs is on the NFL because they're right across from the University of Michigan, Michigan State, and then the Detroit Lions, right? So it's just such an Americanized environment. Tyler Lockett has found a new home, the legendary Seahawks receiver. It's a 1-year, $4 million deal with the Tennessee Titans. I was hoping for him with my Bears. As you know, he's a terrific citizen and human being, Tyler Lockett, and still a good player, even if not at his height. So good to see Lockett catch on after his decade in Seattle. And lots of reporting today, Adam Schefter and others. There is a lot of action on Denver's first-round pick, number 20 overall. The theory being that if the Cleveland Browns at 2, the New York Giants at 3 pass on quarterbacks, and everyone expects that they will pass on quarterbacks, that they are going to look to use their early second-round picks. Cleveland's at 33. The Giants are in the mid-30s as well, to try and move up to the number 20 pick where Denver selects to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers to the quarterback punch. If the Steelers are looking at Shedeur Sanders or one of the other quarterbacks at 21, the belief is you got to get to number 20 if you're going to get the quarterback that you want. And this could even have implications for the Seahawks at 18, Blake, because that gets you in front of Pittsburgh as well. We know John Schneider has a long history of trading back in the draft. We haven't seen it as often in recent years, but there was a time there. And Captain Greg Bell used to tell us every year going into the draft, the Seahawks don't tend to have 32 first-round grades on prospects, which means they're always more willing to move back when in that later third of the draft, seeing the value of additional picks as opposed to taking a guy who you may not really believe would be a first-rounder. So is Seattle going to get tempted by any of these teams looking to trade up? Or are they going to keep the pick, and then at that point it becomes what position? Clearly the need is interior offensive line there. There's a lot of people mocking Gray Zabel. He's an offensive lineman with the North Dakota State University. Can play center, can play guard, has even played some tackle. Some believe Kelvin Banks, the Texas offensive tackle, who some scouts think is going to have to play inside at guard at the NFL level. But wide receiver is a big need after the trade of DK Metcalf, and of course Tyler Lockett not coming back.
You're just skipping on past quarterback?
DB as well.
You're just skipping on past quarterback?
Well, I don't think they're going to take a quarterback.
No, I doubt they will either. But
I think there could be a value pick there. Like, I'm big on taking quarterbacks now in the first round of the NFL draft. I used to be, most of these quarterbacks are busts. If they're imperfect prospects, do you really want that? Do you have? But now with the way the NFL is structured, there's a world where I'm not even sure defense and running game wins you championships anymore. Like Philadelphia last year had those elements, but they also had Jalen Hurts playing better football, which is what I think eventually got them over the top. So if I'm making mistakes in the first round of the NFL draft, let it be on quarterbacks.
Don't you need one of your three quarterbacks to be one of your prospects, like one of your developing players?
Well, you always want to have a young quarterback that you're training up. I'm not...
He can be a free agent, you mean?
Well, the thing is that guy doesn't tend to affect your season, right? And there's so much of a pressure to win. Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's just been so long since Seahawks fans, well, A, have had to worry about it, but B, have actually had a young
Yeah. So I think the quarterback gambit is next year for Seattle if
things fail with
if
Darnold.
Sam Darnold goes bust.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. They can get out of Darnold after this year reasonably cheaply. And so I think you're on the market for a quarterback next year if Darnold doesn't work out. And if Darnold does work out, then that buys you time to draft a quarterback in the later rounds and see if you can train him up.
And he's young enough, too, that you could then ride him for a handful of years.
Still pretty young, given all the teams he's played for. Vancouver Canadians end their 4-game skid, 4-2 win in Everett. Just 2 hours and 12 minutes. God bless the pitch clock.
Bravo.
Like such a great
Bravo.
a century late. Bo Bonds is turning into their closer. Hasn't given up a run all year. 2 scoreless yesterday for the save. Today they're in Everett. Jays number 16 prospect Jerron Watts-Brown on the mound. He struck out 21 in 14 innings so far, building off that 10 strikeout performance in last year's playoff game. They are back home here Tuesday. They have the Nooner on Friday. They have Star Wars theme on Sunday, May the 4th. So get your tickets when the sun is out. Everybody wants to be at the Nat, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Cerny Mitsubishi poll question results. We asked them, who do you want coaching the Canucks next season? Rick Tocchet, Manny Malhotra, or somebody else? And the winner is?
Rick Tocchet.
Correct. Percentage?
57.
62. You continue to undersell talk. Manny got 27% of the vote. Somebody else got 11% of the vote. It was an extensive list of write-ins here. We did ask you to specify if you were voting somebody else, who do you want? We're going to leave the guys currently under contract and on benches off the list.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to see John Cooper here as well. I would like to see Mike Sullivan here as well. So long as they're both employed, they're not available. So the write-in votes were for Joel Quenneville, Peter Laviolette, David Carl, the University of Denver, U.S. World Junior coach, Jay Woodcroft, the former Oilers coach, and Gerard Gallant, the former Vegas Golden Knight and New York Ranger coach.
Spangler Canada coach. Yeah.
And Florida, too. Matt says, don't really care. Just want someone who can make the power play work. And Canucks fan with 2 N's. If they're going to make a change, David Carl's track record is pretty good. Yeah.
Long time since we had
Yeah,
those.
a long time since we've hit the pretty.
Pretty good.
As for errors and omissions, I forgot that Tessa Bonhomme no longer with TSN.
Yeah, there was a just sneaky, quiet announcement when it happened. So
Yeah, well,
I don't blame you.
yeah. Anything from the inbox, anything to self-report?
Nothing to report from anybody.
Another perfect show for Blake. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. And keep it local.